Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Minecraft video. This week I'm going to show you how to put a roof over your head with some building tips, so let's get into it. Now before we start the roof, we should probably build the rest of it, and that's where my first set of tips come in. Starting over here with odd numbers and even numbers. An odd number of blocks on a wall will give you a 1 block center, good for alternating patterns, good for having walkways line up, good for sharp single block pointed roofs. As for evens, alternating patterns not really going to look as good. You're going to have big windows and doors, which are going to be slightly harder to decorate, and there are ways to make it point, but usually those styles require a big scale, and I don't like working on a big scale, so we're going to avoid that for this video. Now the next thing you should consider is the depth of your walls. Flat walls can look good, it just takes a little bit of detailing to get them there. As we're giving yourself a block or two of depth opens the doors for a lot more detailing later on and gives your build a little extra shape. Just something to consider later. The next thing I want to look at is the scale of your build. If you're doing a big build, you're probably going to have a very big roof, very plain and boring. You're going to have to break that up with either a second story or chimneys or windows, something to draw the attention away from how plain the roof is, even if it's down here adding a lot of detail. As with a small build, you can get away with just a small chimney if you need to break the roof up at all. Lastly, I want to talk about the shape of your build. You could do better than this right here, but even if this is where you're starting, you could add towers, you could add a second story, you could add extra parts to the building, you could turn this into a mansion. It's all about perspective and practice. Now for the rest of this video, I'm going to freestyle a build using these tips behind me. I'm going to pick a few different roof types to try out, and I'll bring you guys back in for each one. So let's get to it. The first roof style I have for you is a gambrel roof. It's used a lot in Victorian builds and medieval builds, but it looks good just about anywhere. I'm also going to be building the roof extremely slow, that way you can see exactly what I'm placing block for block, just so you know how to get that shape. And now on to the back side of the build, where I'm just going to mirror the same style, but while I'm there I'll show you what block you need to mess with if you are building on a bigger scale. Now let's say you want to use this style roof but on a much bigger scale. You're going to want to add more hole blocks in between all of these sections, whether it be 2 or 3 or 4, it just depends on how big your building is and how big you want the roof to be. And I personally think it looks better with a half slab on the bottom down here just to give it a bell shape, but that's just me. And the next roof style I have for you is a mansard roof, but I'm actually only using half of it because it's going to connect to the gambrel roof once we fill everything in. And again, I'll show you the back side just so you can see it from a different angle, and keep in mind this is only half of this roof style because we're going to be running into the other roof once we fill it all in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the 2 sections that we just built just to give you a little taste of what the build's going to look like, and then we'll finish the final section. This last roof is the easiest out of the 3. It's a gable roof, and all you need to build this one is half slabs in an alternating pattern. And now we can mirror this on the other side and fill everything in, including the part of the wall between the roof and the rest of the structure. By this point in the build, you probably already have your doors and windows picked out, but if you haven't yet, just keep in mind your even and odd numbers and how they're going to line up with your pathway. Well, that's the build, everybody. I'm not going to detail this one because I want the focus of the video to be getting you to this step, but I hope my tips help you out in some way, shape, or form. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, have a good night.